Welcome to the Author's Edge radio show with Guy L. Freer. Now, their show airs nationwide on the My Genre Radio Network, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Each week on their show, they help authors create books that transform our lives and imaginations. Through radio excellence, they create a unique community resource, one that promotes, connects, and fosters a sense of well-being. Guy L. maintain a focus on sharing books, publishing, marketing, and writing solutions. They serve listeners by providing outlets for their creative skills and energies, and they help them flourish in the competitive marketplace. Their weekly show provides intros, writing spotlights, helps you in promoting your book, your writing, your publishing, your marketing tidbits, and much more.
And we're back. Welcome to Author's Edge Show, where we engage in lively conversations with both emerging and seasoned writers, as well as publishers, songwriters, illustrators, and artists to explore the art of storytelling. We are coming to you live weekly on Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sundays at 7 a.m. on KWRH FM 92.9 and KXOK FM 102.9. You can hear the Author's Edge Show streaming at KXOK.com, KWRH929.com, or any of our free apps, iHeartRadio, Audacity, and TuneIn. The Author's Edge Show can also be heard Monday to Friday at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. nationwide on My Genre Radio Network. They can also listen to any of our current or past shows on SoundCloud and YouTube, or by visiting our website at authorsedge.org. That's Author's Edge, all one word, .org. Today, we're thrilled to be chatting with David Williams. Welcome, David.
Thank you very much. Outstanding to be here.
Today, and how are you doing? How's the drive?
I'm my wife.
How's the drive?
Oh.
Not your wife, but we'll get to her later.
The drive was fine.
Yes.
Pleasant drive. Stopped
Yeah.
and had a sandwich, and everything's good. My
What
wife.
kind of sandwich?
I had.
Hungry.
There's like a deli up the road about 30 miles, and
Uh-huh.
I thought it was like a sausage sandwich thing. It's
Oh.
okay.
Oh, okay.
I literally will not write home about it, but it was fine.
Okay.
You know,
How's your wife?
she's not as good
She's
as
not
the
as good.
sandwich. No.
No.
Yeah, we were talking
We'll
before.
talk- yeah.
She got
Poor thing.
headbutted by one of our horses and knocked some teeth out. So she had some
Ouch.
surgery, and she's going to have some more surgery. And we've had a lot of fun. Her dad, her family, some of her family's there taking care of her. And then I will go home tonight and play nurse.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Did they put her teeth back? Or
No, that's going to be in January. We've got to have a little healing time. So she's got this cute little gap.
you know?
It's just darling.
But
So she's going to be singing. Oh, no, but she's going to be singing, what do you want for Christmas?
I know.
That's her
I know. I literally played that in the emergency room, and it was a riot. The emergency
Oh, I
room
think she's
doctor
going to love
was
that.
thrilled that I did that.
I want my Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's exactly
Great.
what
Oh, it's going to be great.
it couldn't have been more perfect, except for her pain, you know. But
Oh,
Is she getting her own teeth back or implants?
she's gonna no, her teeth are dead now.
Or-
We will bury them,
They're dead, Jim.
and she'll get some brand new fun teeth,
Brand new. Brand
suitable for
spanking.
eating.
Suitable for eating?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. But before we dive in, let me share a little bit about David's background.
Share a little bit about my background.
Share. We're going to share. David's career has kept his adrenaline flowing. From swiftwater rescues, leading in a helicopter medevac team and investigating violent crime as a detective, David D.L. Williams was twice honored as Officer of the Year by the Fraternal Order of Police, Paramedic of the Year by the City of Austin, additionally awarded by organizations such as the Rotary Club, Arkansas Psychiatric Society, and the American Legion for his work with families and children in crisis, recipient of the Martin Luther King Jr. Award for Civic Service, as well as a Visionary Voice Award for the National Coalition Against Sexual Assault. While keeping the public safe and raising two boys as a single dad, David prioritized devoting time to his passion for writing. He's the best-selling author of Fighting for Her Life, What to Do When Someone You Know is Being Abused, and Textbooks, Not Targets, How to Prevent School Shootings in Your Community, and a professor of criminology at the University of Arkansas. He regularly works with organizations on how to accurately incorporate public safety practices and investigation techniques into novels and screenplays. Such venues include the Women's Fiction Writers Association, Albuquerque Film and Music Experience, DFW Writers Conference, Ozark Writers League, Writers League of Texas, Arkansas Playwrights Workshop, as well as ABC NPR affiliates. David and his wife have settled in a cabin in the Ozarks where they offer a haven for horses and donkeys who have endured a rough life before coming to live with them. So welcome to our show,
Well,
David.
thank you very much. Fun to be here.
Yes, from your biography, you have always been in some form of public safety work. What fueled your passion for public safety?
What fueled my passion? Well, I knew pretty early on, like 13 or 14, that this was what I was going to do. I read a book called Serpico. You ever heard of that?
Yes, I
Frank
have.
Serpico.
I'm from New York.
Oh, well, there you go. You got to know Serpico.
You have
So
to know
he's this New York
Serpico.
cop, and he was known for not taking bribes, and his fellow officers hated him for that. And some of them set him up for a murder, and he took a bullet to the head and nearly died. And I read that when I was 13. That book, if it was rated, it was a hard R, but I stole it from my dad, and I was just enchanted, and I knew that that's what I was going to do from then on, and that really shaped my career and my life.
You wanted to get shot in the head?
I did not want to get shot in the head.
Actually, my dad was a cop.
Yeah, I think you told me that.
Yes, my dad was a cop, and I was raised among cops. I mean, that was and actually growing up, it's what I wanted to be. Was a cop.
Cop families, man.
Yeah.
we just breed them that way.
Yeah. When did you first want to? Well, you just answered that. When you wanted to be first become a cop. You also teach about public safety.
Mhm.
How did you get involved with the teaching?
So about 5 years before I retired from frontline police work in 2015, so about 2010, I started doing a lot of training with the police academy and in my department and other departments. And I found out I kind of liked it, and I was pretty good at it. And so I just continued on. I went and got a graduate degree so I could teach at a college level. And we've moved around a lot. And I've always done some professional development with different agencies wherever we are. When we moved to Northwest Arkansas, an old friend of mine saw me on Facebook and said, "Hey, I've got a job for you at the University of Arkansas. Do you have time?" I said, "Yeah, that sounds great." So I've been there since then. And I kind of always wanted to teach at the college level, and it's so cool. I really like it. It's the best teaching gig out there. I taught middle school. I've taught, like I said, at the police academy. Man, I tell you what, most dangerous thing I ever did.
Yeah.
was
we've
teaching
been
middle
there.
school.
We've been there.
But it's a good gig. I really like it, and I feel like I'm still participating in some way with that new generation.
Well, you don't get all those behavior issues with college kids because you can kick them out and they'll
You can kick them out.
Now, and they'll
it-
stay kicked out.
The one thing you can't do that I learned pretty early on is you're not allowed to make them do push-ups like at the academy.
No.
And you can't throw erasers at their head. So there are some limitations, but pretty good gig.
You can't throw erasers.
They don't like that.
They don't.
Like there's a memo involved with that, and probably a new
You know,
policy.
when I was in grade school, a professor kicked one of the students out. We never saw. Yes, he did, and we never saw her again.
Never saw her
They were,
again, you
she was
say.
two gals in the back, and they were having a swell time. He said, "You know what? You're out of here."
I
And that was
never
that.
kicked a child. I'm not saying I didn't think about strangling a couple of them, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No,
No, I've had some kids removed from my room on occasion, but not too often. I had a fight in my room once, but only once.
I broke up a fight in the cafeteria one time. I remember that. This kid was, amazingly enough, as an eighth grader, he was bigger than I was. The
Oh,
kid was
wow.
built like a refrigerator with a head, and just to.
well,
So-
teaching, great stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
great profession. How has teaching criminology influenced your writing?
Well, for one thing, I do a lot of work with groups. You said something about that in the bio, and I belong to 3 different national writers groups, and then local groups. Wherever we move, I kind of attach to somebody there. And once people figure out what I do and what I've done for a living, somebody who writes mystery or thriller always approaches and says, "Hey, will you read a passage? Will you read this paragraph or this chapter?" And I'm always willing to do it, and if time allows, I'm happy to do it. I'm kind of honored that they'll include me in their process, and whatever the issue at hand is, we can generally talk it out and figure out a good way for them to move forward. They figure it out. I just kind of ask questions until they find the prescription.
Are these primarily police procedurals that they're?
It's everything. It's cozies, up noir procedurals. It kind of runs the whole gamut. And people will say, "Hey, I've got this cop in my story, and I'm not sure we're doing this right." And we take a look, and I kind of dig it.
Yeah, I can imagine. I have a friend who is retired. He was a SAC at ATF. And so he was at Ruby Ridge, and he was at Waco, and he was involved in that. You may remember those snipers that were shooting up the Beltway in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about 20 years ago, I think now. And he's been very helpful for me in the stuff that I write. He's on his business card, it says "Talk Crime Anytime." And he's retired
really?
now. Yeah. But
I
he's
went
an
to
interesting guy. And he shows up on
You were at Waco?
when there's a shooting or a bombing, he's kind of the go-to guy on MSNBC. He's got a studio in his home.
He's one of
a
those
very
kind of
interesting
guys.
guy. Yeah. He's done very well with it.
What do you think? Yeah, in fact, I was a paramedic at the time, and they needed medics up there. And right after that, so we went up there. We traveled up there for a day and kind of helped out. But right after that, there was a national call for medics to be tactical medics for SWAT teams for the feds, and that's when I was doing helicopter rescue, and they tapped us first, and I said, "Yeah, I'll raise my hand for that. That sounds great." So they sent me to the combat medic school at Fort Hood, and then they sent me to the police academy, and I just had a ball. And I had known for a long time I was going to go in police work. The paramedic was something I felt like was important, but I always knew I was going to go into that other role. And it really, for me, just became an extension of public safety. I just went from one discipline to another, but it was all about protecting and serving. And fortunately, the pension board agreed, and they gave me all that paramedic time as part of my pension time. And so I got to walk out with that little monthly paycheck, which we appreciate.
Always.
Yeah, I found that when I was teaching. I didn't know there was a teacher pension. What do you know there was?
Yes, there is.
Yeah,
Thank
I
goodness.
didn't know that. I thought it was just more Social Security.
Oh no, there's a pension that goes with that. So one of the things that you wanted to discuss was how to help mystery and thriller writers with crafting more authentic stories as they research police and investigative practices. What are some of the challenges you see in novels and plays?
Yeah, so I do that now fairly routinely. I go to writers' conferences and I do the interfacing. People will email me from all over the country, and I've had some from Great Britain now, which is kind of cool. And
Great Britain too?
Great Britain too. They have police officers there too.
They do.
And who knew?
Who knew?
So
they're called hobbies, right?
they are called bobbies after Sir Robert Peel, founder of modern policing. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I like doing it. It's a thing that I know I can help with, and every writer who has a special skill, I think, should be helping other writers. And this is just where I can kind of give back. And so what I find in these talks, either one-on-one or in the conferences, is there sort of typical problems that come up for people who are not immersed in the profession for a living. Anybody can write mysteries and thrillers. I'm not saying you got to be a cop or detective to do that. I'm just saying it is important, if you don't want to look your work to look like a copy of a copy where you learned everything about police work from a TV show, that you immerse yourself in those procedures, that culture, how cops think. And when you do that, you're going to have something that reads or watches more real and more genuine, I think. And so, common issues come up, like Fourth Amendment stuff, like search and seizure, and when do I need a search warrant? And a big one is interview and interrogation. And TV tends to get that wrong a lot of the time. You get a lot of yelling, a lot of cursing, threatening. I'm going to get you. I'm going to throw you in the cell with the biggest rapist.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, is a an Eighth Amendment violation, cruel and unusual punishment. You can't threaten to put somebody in jail to be raped
For the purpose of
And-
getting beat up.
and
right,
so it is that copy of a copy,
Mhm.
and it perpetuates from document to document, screenplay to screenplay, and it doesn't read true. So writers will tap into somebody like me or your friend and say, "Hey, will you just take a look and see what we need to do?" And it's generally pretty fun. And most of the time, the corrections aren't really hard. It's just, well, how about we take it in this direction instead of over here? And I'm going to give you an example. My wife and I were watching a streaming series, and we like the actress. It's kind of cozy stuff, and not something we normally would watch, but we like her, and so we tuned in. And the premise is that this civilian employee working for a metropolitan police department is there late at night. All the cops have gone home. She's working. She looks at a conspiracy board, which they aren't really used very often in real life, by the way, but that's okay.
No?
It's a good visual. Not really, no. And so she's looking at this board. She's looking at pictures, and she's brilliant. She solves it. And okay, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And so the police department hires her as a consultant, and she takes off running. And where I really started losing some faith with this thing, she goes to an evidence locker. She takes all this evidence and she takes it home. Well, that never going to
You
happen.
can't do that.
And so then she pulls in her precocious 10-year-old son to help her kind of sift through this stuff to get his take on stuff. And the detective comes in and goes, "You can't do that." It's like, no, you really can't do that. You've just destroyed your chain of custody. And kind of the genuineness of
Yeah.
the whole thing fell apart. And then, but I don't know, we're gluttons, so we kept watching for a little bit. And so then there was a kidnapping of a child. And the parents go to the police and they say, "Can you please put out an Amber Alert?" They said, "Oh, we can't do that for 24 hours. Well, that's wrong. That's a lie. Amber Alerts are designed to be implemented immediately
Yes.
if there's a suspicion that a child has been kidnapped. We all get these Amber Alerts on our phones, right?
Yes.
And so this whole trope of the cops can't do anything and they're weak and they're stupid and they're lazy. Listen, I have reported corrupt police officers. I read Serpico, right? And I have arrested corrupt police officers. I'm not ever going to apologize or make excuses for bad police work, ever. I want to eradicate it from police work, which is why I'm teaching at a college level. I need to instill these values in the next generation. But I got to tell you, when I see something like that, where it's just sort of spackling over a plot hole, and it comes off as lazy
It does.
or lack of research, and you
And
just
it-
didn't care enough to figure it out, to
and it
understand my
puts-
culture.
And it gives the public the impression,
Right.
the wrong impression,
Mhm.
that this is the way police work really is.
Well,
Yeah.
but here's the problem. You've got an hour. And in the space of an hour, now some of those British things, because we stream Acorn and we stream BritBox, and I think those are actually better because they're an hour and a half, many of them, and so the story's got a little bit more room to breathe. But in an hour, you really can't do that. I write PI fiction, and the character is set in Nashville, Tennessee. I went online
I've heard
and
of
I yeah. Well, okay. And so it turns out I looked and there's an 862-page police procedural manual that I didn't download, but I have the link to it because there were some things that I needed to check. And I thought, just because it's fiction doesn't mean that it's crap. And it doesn't mean that
No,
you
I
can,
agree.
you can't
I
just
agree.
make things up out of
And-
whole cloth, because
Sure.
you need to be able to say, what would a reasonable person here do? And more to the point, what are they constrained from doing? Otherwise, it sort of falls apart. It's like reading an Agatha Christie thing where it doesn't make any sense when you get
Sure.
to the end.
And I agree with you that depending on where you are in the genre, on that spectrum of mystery thriller, if it's a cozy, you can suspend some disbelief.
Yes.
You can. If it's noir, maybe a little bit less. If it's procedural, you better be spot on. And so, but on this, where we have a true public safety issue, I wrote the producers. I haven't heard back from them.
Yeah.
But I just felt like that is not safe to be putting it out there that the police can't do anything if a child's been kidnapped until it's been 24 hours. Wrong. And so that's the kind of stuff where a true gaffe or a true constitutional error, or it just wouldn't be done that way, where I feel like I can be of service to fellow writers.
Yeah. And the other thing that I don't like is that it does give the public the wrong idea. It just puts it out there that cops don't know what they're doing, and they're not following the rules, and they're not following the law. And people have a hard time knowing the difference between what is real and what is not.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that line is blurred so many times that it's not right. So,
Blurred and then reblurred, like going
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
optometrist and clear
Yeah.
or not clear, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You keep flipping it, it gets
Yeah,
more and more blurry.
right.
And I just want to be real clear about this. I do not tolerate bad police work. I didn't in my career. I definitely wouldn't now. And yet, when we're perpetuating some of those, all cops are bad and lazy, I don't think that's helpful. I want us to be very specific about bad policing and target those officers who have, spit on the badge that I
Mhm.
care so much about.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority, in my experience, the majority of officers are hardworking, conscientious people,
They are.
and they want to do the right thing. They go to work every day trying to do the right thing.
They are. They are. What's the most common problem you see in art portraying police work?
So, the biggest, some of the biggest ones I mentioned a little bit before, but I can go into more detail. Search and seizure is a big bugaboo for a lot of people. Do I need a search warrant here?
So when do you need a search warrant?
Well, if you want to search a private property,
Mm-hmm.
something that you would be considered private in any reasonable person's eyes, and you are the government, and
Mhm.
cops
Yeah.
are the government, then you need to have
All right. What about my cell phone?
your cell phone is a private place. Sure. So if I wanted to search your, of course, I'm not on the job anymore, but if I wanted to search that, I would need some evidence that that has been used in the commission of a crime, and I would need to go to another branch of government, a check and balance system
Okay.
that we love so much, and say, and in this case, it would be a judge. Judge, here's my evidence, here's my probable cause, and here's why I believe that this phone is an integral part of this crime that
Mm-hmm.
we're investigating, and here's why I want to get a forensic person to crack that thing and get in there and get the information.
But you also have to say specifically what it is you're looking for, right?
Right. You need to be
can't,
very
it's not
specific.
just a fishing trip.
Can't be a fishing trip, and no judge, no qualified judge would allow a fishing trip, and that's a safeguard for me. I don't want to be on the stand at trial 6 months later and you weren't allowed to. You were just fishing.
Get it thrown
So,
out.
so it's good to have those two branches, the executive branch of the government going to ask the judicial branch, can I go into this person's private property? Now, there are exceptions, and the biggest exception is the exigent clause. And so if you
The what?
have an
Exigent.
emergency, an exigent circumstance,
Mhm.
that's the legal term. If you have an emergency, you think somebody's inside a house and they're injured or somebody's hurting them, you don't have to have a warrant to go get that. But as soon as you've cleared that house, made it safe, got an EMS in there to get them out and make them safe, make the scene safe, then you put a couple of officers on doors, everybody leaves that house, and somebody, generally a detective, goes and writes that search warrant affidavit and goes and finds a judge. And if it's 3 a.m, you go wake a judge up at 3 a.m. And you don't go in that house and search it until you have that document.
All right. So we are going to go to a break in a minute. And at this point, I'd like to take a moment to put a little spotlight on our co-host.
Oh, thank you.
And I'm thrilled to
I feel
take
like
the
the
moment.
Ed McMahon of talk radio here. For those of you who remember Ed McMahon.
Oh, I remember Ed McMahon. He was a delight. I liked him.
Oh,
Yeah, I loved him. I'm thrilled to take a moment to spotlight our incredible co-host, a true master of the mystery genre and an award-winning writer. He's not just any author. He's a Shamus Award winner, a prestigious honor given by the Private Eye Writers of America to celebrate excellence in private eye fiction. He's graced our show a few times, and fans of detective fiction might know him best for his gripping Jackson Gamble series. His latest novel, Long Time Gone, is another thrilling addition that keeps readers on the edge of their seats, and I believe it has come out real recent.
yesterday.
yesterday.
As recently as yesterday. Yes, as
Yes,
recently
as
as
recently
yesterday.
as
As yesterday. Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
I almost pounded on the table, Mark.
Bravo.
I came this close.
Get your pins out.
I
Yeah.
got my.
Yeah, spin that pen. Yeah.
Okay. So, are you an author, publisher, editor, illustrator, songwriter, or artist looking to expand your reach? Advertise on Author's Edge to connect with passionate readers and industry insiders. With engaging interviews, reviews, and discussions, your book will shine. Why choose us? Reach thousands of book lovers, boost sales and visibility, targeted impactful ads, trust host endorsements. Elevate your presence with Author's Edge. Contact us today at 573-714-1352, where authors and readers meet. And now we will go to our station break.
In 1857, the Dred Scott decision was a major legal event and catalyst that contributed to the Civil War. The decision declared that Dred Scott could not be free because he was not a citizen. The 14th Amendment, also called the Dred Scott Amendment, granted citizenship to all born or naturalized here in our country and was intended to overturn the U.S. Supreme Court decision on July 9, 1868. The Dred Scott Heritage Foundation is requesting a commemorative stamp to be issued from the U.S. Postal Service to recognize and remember the heritage of this amendment by issuing a stamp with the likeness of the man Dred Scott. But we need your support and the support of thousands of people who would like to see this happen. To achieve this goal, we ask you to download, sign, and share the one-page petition with others. To find the petition, please go to dredscottlives.org and click on the Dred Scott Petition Drive on the right side of the page.
El Potro Restaurant and Market, located at 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland, offers the finest variety of Mexican and Central American groceries and goods. El Potro Restaurant serves authentic Mexican and Central American cuisine, including daily specials, not to mention the best horchata and tastiest margaritas in St. Louis. Open 7 days a week. El Potro, 6920 Manchester Avenue, 1 block east of McCausland.
The United States has a strong tradition of welcoming newcomers and refugees. The Welcome Corps is a new service opportunity for Americans inspired to welcome those seeking freedom and safety and in turn help strengthen their own communities. Welcome Corps is a public-private partnership that is inspired by what Americans represent to so many around the world, a beacon of hope and refuge. All it takes is a helping hand. Are you ready to learn more? Contact the International Institute of St. Louis at info@iistl.org or call 314-773-9090. That's info@iistl.org or call 314-773-9090.
All right. Welcome back. You are listening to David Williams and chatting about his book, his Drop the Pen, What Every Writer Should Know About Real Police Work, on Author's Edge, coming to you live weekly on Saturdays at 8 a.m. and Sunday at 7 a.m. on KWRH, 92.9.com, KXOK102.com, iHeartRadio app, Odyssey app, and TuneIn app, and Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. nationwide on the My Genre Radio Network. You can also listen to us at any time on SoundCloud and YouTube. So, you were also, just before we went on break, you were going to tell us about, we were talking about search and seizure, and then you were going to talk to us about
Interview and interrogation is another
Right.
sort of stumbling block for a writer. Let me say something first. You mentioned Drop the Pen, so that is not published, and it is something I took all those emails and all those questions that I've received from writers over the years, and put it into a book form. And my wife came up with that title, Drop the Pen, exclamation point, whatever writers should know about real police work.
I love it.
And I
think
too.
it's a
do
great-
too,
I
man.
think it's a
She's
great
just dropping
title.
those-
Pen.
Drop that pen.
Despite the fact she has
Drop that keyboard.
no teeth in the front, she's really cool. And so
Better days are ahead.
better.
Well,
I
but you know, this is if you're going to lose your teeth, this is the right time of year to lose them.
because you can ask for the two front
That's
teeth.
right.
I know.
But there's got to be a joke here about getting it from the horse's mouth.
Oh my Lord, we haven't even gone there yet.
Oh my
Thank you.
goodness!
That
Oh,
opens
yes.
up a whole.
Yes,
We'll have to work
are.
on it.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to work on that. But,
So anyway, it's out with beta readers,
Yes.
some cops and some writers, and I'm going to get their feedback. And
okay,
then-
it's,
and then
it's
we'll-
on beta. It's okay. So you're not that far off from getting it actually published.
no, I think we're pretty close. I think it's pretty tight. And
Okay.
and we'll
Are
make
you
it
going
tighter.
to self-publish or are you going to traditional?
I've never self-published. I've never done that.
All right. Well, come talk to me,
I will. I know. I read that on your card, and
I will help you with that.
The thing about I want to sell some books. Everybody wants to sell
Right.
books, but I would use that as a platform for more speaking gigs.
Mhm.
And I do corporate gigs for stalking and violence in the workplace,
Mhm.
prevention and mitigation, and that's kind of another part of my world. And then this other part about going to writers' conferences has opened up some new pathways for me. And these are things, obviously it's kind of fun for me and
Mhm. Mhm.
brings a little income into the family, and I do feel like I'm giving back, and so it may be a self-published route on that particular one, and we can talk about that. That'd be great.
Well,
So
let's
anyway,
talk.
back to interview and interrogation. That is really a place where a lot of writers get it wrong. And when I was talking earlier about that copy of a copy, a lot of writers clearly get their information from having watched mediocre television.
Mhm.
And so what you get out of that is a lot of yelling and a lot of fingers and a lot of indignation and I'm going to get you. And you know what? When you do that in real life, you have this whole constitutional issue of you have the right to remain silent and you have the right to an attorney. When you are indignant to another human being, what do you think they're going to do?
Call for a lawyer.
They want a lawyer.
Yeah.
I want the truth. And all the lawyers out there just sort of cringed. Oh, he's going to keep talking. Well, yeah, I'm going to keep talking. I want the truth. I want you to give me your biggest, deepest, darkest secret. And I'm going to use my training and experience to try to get that from you. But I'm going to do it in a fair and constitutional way. And so one way you do that is you don't yell at people. You don't act indignant. You give them moral outs for what they did so that you can start building that first admission and then build that into a full confession. And so when I read things like that, I know that they've never experienced that in real life. And I know that they got that from an unreliable source. So this is something that I'm saying like just about every writer that contacts me says, I've got this scene with a cop interviewing somebody, interrogating somebody. And will you take a look? Sure. I generally don't have time for a whole book, but I can read a passage or a chapter. And that's what I see, just like glaringly right off the bat. Okay, we need to work on this part. And here's how you might approach it in a couple of different ways. And then, they're going to decide. It's their story. I'm just going to
Advice.
give them some advice. Exactly.
But that does not translate well to television. I'm thinking of Danny Reagan in particular. Because on TV, what you're looking for, or even in a movie, what you're looking for is drama.
Right. I understand
And
that. I do.
an actual police procedure is fairly low key. And it's kind
It
of like
is.
we're
But
talking.
you know when
here
they
now?
did it really well? You remember NYPD Blue?
Yes.
Yes.
Now the Sipowicz character could get pretty hostile sometimes. But he was countered with, and I'm sure the actor would be very angry with me, but I don't remember his name, but the red-haired guy in the first season or two.
David.
David something.
Yeah.
And he would do it in a way that I would say that's kind of the way it looks in real life. And then the Sipowicz character would be the quote unquote bad cop. By the way, I mean, every real bad guy in the world is looking for the good cop, bad cop. They are. And
Well, they've also been through the drill.
they've been through it.
Any number of times,
You can have two cops walking in the same room. They're looking like, which one's going to be the bad cop? Which is why in real life, when I was practicing, I very rarely had another detective in the room with me. I didn't like it. I was always concerned they were going to mess up my rapport, the rhythm. I was getting ready to ask a question. They would pipe in with something ridiculous. And so I didn't like it. We didn't do good cop, bad cop, at least not on my cases. And I was well into the 90th percentile when I came to confession. So, but you're right. I grant you that you have to have a certain amount of drama associated with television and visuals, but picking up a phone book and cracking a guy in the back of the head,
you
it
can't. No.
ain't gonna be it. So that's a balance issue, and
British TV does it better.
I'm gonna have to look at this British TV thing you keep talking about.
BritBox.
BritBox.
And look at,
I have heard of
like
that.
Vera is very good. Inspector or Foyle's War is very good. They're very low key, and you get the feeling that they're actually people. You know, they're not.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's the way it
they're
should be.
not completely out of control the way you see on American television, and they don't carry guns.
American television.
What's the worst TV cop show in your opinion? If you're not minding your P's and Q's here, what's the most ridiculous one?
The most ridiculous right now, and I still kind of like it, is Only Murders in the Building, especially third season. It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, but I think
they're not
but
cops.
they're not. They're not cops. I mean, not that I've watched. I haven't really watched it. But I get the feeling that it's more for
It's a comedy. It's a comedy.
You know,
It is.
It's not really meant to be serious. It's not meant to be real.
Top of my head kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. And you're right. But what I would say about that is the cops that are in there seem to have just sort of abdicated their position. Oh, we can't do anything. So the podcasters are going to have to solve this. And they sort of have given it all over. And that goes
Right.
back to the whole theme of what I was talking about in the first segment.
Well,
So
my favorite is NYPD, and that's going off the show. It's going off this year. This is their last season.
NYPD.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
NYPD? We're talking about Blue Bloods?
Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods.
Bloods.
Blue Bloods.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't stand that dinner.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I meant Blue Bloods. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I used the wrong one.
Well, there was blue in both titles. It's
Yeah,
very
that one-
understandable. same continents, same words.
Yeah.
You know.
But no, it's Blue Bloods
Blue
that's going
Bloods.
off. Yeah.
It's
Do
time.
you need me to write a letter?
Oh no.
yeah, it's time.
No,
Is it?
Tom Selleck.
Are you-
No,
are y'all
never.
Are y'all going to arm wrestle or what happens now? It's your show.
Yeah. Well,
No, it's not.
well, he's unhappy because apparently he likes that paycheck.
Well,
And what he does, he goes to New York and films all of the sequences that he's in, and then he goes back to, I think, Hawaii, where he lives.
no, he lives in Washington or Oregon or somewhere. He lives.
Mm.
I don't think he lives in
They
Hawaii.
have multiple houses.
Oh, that's true
Yeah.
too. He probably has multiple houses. But anyway, nonetheless, I like that show. I love Tom Selleck. All right. How do your workshops go? Let's get back to the book.
Maybe we need to talk about Tom Selleck. I don't know. I want you to. What about workshops? What do you want to know about workshops?
How do your workshops transform crime
So
writing?
the workshops, when it's generally, it depends on how much time I'm given.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm given just the 1 hour, then it is sort of broad strokes. These are the things that go wrong,
Mhm.
and I do it as sort of as a fake homicide case, so start to finish, from discovery of the body all the way through to the arrest, and talk about the procedures that go with that. And it's kind of a humorous tone. I do it as a lark, but there are serious issues that are raised in that. And then when I have more time, it is always left up to whoever is putting on the conference. So this last one where I met you guys,
Mhm.
they wanted interview and interrogation. Sometimes it's handcuffing. Sometimes it's I've done them on police chases, car chases, just kind of what that audience wants, and
Mhm.
I get that from whoever the organizer is. And then some of the presentations I've got in the can. I've done them several times. Some of them I make it before a conference because they've asked for something I haven't done before, and those are kind of fun. Then I have to kind of figure out the timing and everything, but that's actually a really neat challenge when that happens. So ask me for something unique. I'm probably going to be happy with you.
What's your novel going to be about?
My novel is, thank you for asking.
Well, you are an author after all.
It
you
is
wouldn't be
not
here.
police work per se. However, it came about as a result of police work. Three things happened. This is a work that I've visited off and on for 12 years now. And when I started this thing, there were three things happening that were very important in my life. One, I was working in a special investigations unit. We were doing violent crime, stalking, and sexual predation crimes. And as I know you know, that most of those crimes are against women and children.
Yes.
And so one of the struggles we had in every domestic violence unit in the world has the same struggle, is that you've got not always a woman, but generally a woman who has been emotionally and physically abused by a man, sometimes sexually abused by a man, and their confidence level is in the dirt. And so we can offer them services, and we can offer them protection, and we can get them to a shelter, and we can get them a social worker, and almost be begging them to leave. The vast majority of homicides are people who have not left a violent situation, and so we're really trying to get them to go, and they just can't. And that used to frustrate me so much. And I finally got it. I finally clicked that we're talking about a traumatized psyche who doesn't see the world the way I see the world, and really believes, and sometimes rightfully so, that they're in danger. They're not going to survive this if they leave. And so we just have to always be there for them. That's always got to be the message for their friends, family, employers, cops, advocates. We have to be there when they're ready. And so that was going on. I was working a lot of cases, and it was like a touchdown moment when you finally got somebody to a safe place. And then I would check on them about every 6 months, and have a meeting with somebody that was just in throes of despair 6 to 12 months earlier. And now they're not just surviving, they're thriving. They're living their life. They have forgiven to a degree that person, but more importantly, they've forgiven themselves, and which is sometimes the hardest part of that whole equation. And they're so angry at themselves for choosing him, for staying, for not staying, for however that manifests, a lot of self-anger and loathing. And so to see them later on was joyous to me. And so that was going on. And then at the same time, in the city where I was working, we had a carnival that would winter there. They leased property in the southern end of town. They put all those roller coaster Ferris wheel rides out there, and those carnies would hit town, and you knew it. Our caseloads would go up.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys were funny and quirky and just, fun to be around. But some of them were sinister human beings that were using that carnival circuit to escape, justice. And so, we knew when they were there, and I wanted to incorporate that into a novel. And then the other thing was, I'd a couple of years earlier become a single parent. And so this is about a woman who's a single parent, who's running an amusement park. It used to be a carnival, and she's been arguing with her dead adoptive father for 30 years. A lot of magical realism in this story, and he's very much alive in her mind, and she's arguing with him. She can't leave. She can't get away from him, and so she has a falling out with her daughter, and she can't reunite with her. She's got a man who is deeply in love with her. She would like to love him, but she just can't make that leap until she gets clear in her head. I'm done with him. He's gone. I forgive him, and I forgive myself. And so it is absolutely just this sense of rejoicing for those people that finally did get away and survived, and then thrived, and then carried their stories forward and gave their wisdom to the next person in line. And I love that. It's comedy. It's dark comedy. That subject can be really maudlin. I mean, clearly. We're talking about a very serious subject, but that doesn't fit me. And I didn't feel like it would be, in some ways, as impactful. People couldn't approach it unless I did it the way I felt like I should do it. And it was about the third or fourth draft where I finally figured out, okay, this is what it's about. This is where I'm supposed to be going. And I finally got a publisher, Black Rose, is going to publish it in October. And they've been very supportive, and this is a new process for me, and I'm really, really liking it, and I'm learning a lot as I go. And it's going to be ebook and.
So you're going to try to write a woman?
I am writing a woman. I wrote a woman. Yeah, and but I'm a man, and so it's going to be.
I got that.
Slightly different. Thanks. It's going to be a different perspective, but I would say that just like you don't have to be a beat cop or a detective to write mysteries and thrillers, I think a male can write book club fiction with a female protagonist if they have some experience and a big old bag of empathy and approach it the right way. And hopefully I've done that, and this publisher thinks that I have, and so I hope the rest of the world does. And
You
we'll
gave
see in
me a
October.
Quote for Melissa and all the others who escaped cruel cocoons to spread their lovely wings. So
Yep.
tell me about that.
Well, Melissa's my wife, and she had some real struggles earlier in her life, and escaped and spread her lovely wings. And all those people, primarily women, who were able to do the same thing. This is for them. This is a celebration of their freedom, and that's what that means.
Okay, your title of your book is "Mind the Pony Droppings: A Love Story."
Mhm.
Why? That's an interesting title. How'd you come up with this
Cool. I
fun
hope
title?
other people think so too.
I love that. I love that title.
So there's some sort of visual continuing themes throughout the book, and one of them is these party ponies are kind of always around. It's a carnival, it's an amusement park, and little kids are riding them, and they have little party hats on, and so at one point one of the characters says, "Mind the pony droppings," and it's just sort of an offhand remark, but it occurred to me at some point that's a really cool title because it is a metaphor for our life of having to step around and step through and get over all these pony droppings in our path, and then we're past it, and we get to the fun, we get to the ride, and we get to the snow cones and the I'm not a big cotton candy guy, but the cotton candy, we get to all that stuff if we can just get through the pony droppings of life. And so that's what it's about.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like
Cool.
that. The novel is set in an amusement park.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this unique? Why did you pick an amusement park?
Well, one, because of all those carnies in their amusement park, and it gave that flavor I was looking for of really quirky characters. And we've got this woman who's trying to hold this business together while raising her daughter alone, and she's got this ghost father, and then this angel comes in, and so she's got devil angel kind of going, and it was just sort of the perfect setting for that. And I like them. Y'all have a Six Flags here in St. Louis. I'd forgotten that. I drove by it today. And so they're kind of fun. Going to amusement parks are fun. But have you ever been to sort of a lower end amusement park and thought that roller coaster ride operator is on meth? And I'm getting ready to. And so it just sort of, for a number of reasons, it was a perfect setting for what I was trying to
The
do.
life of a carny,
Life of a
Yeah.
carny.
Yeah.
Like a pirate or a
Yeah.
vagabond.
Yeah.
yeah.
I got
I'm
to
gonna
use
run away to
vagabond
the
in
circus.
Run away to the circus. That's exactly right.
And sweep up after the elephants.
Yes. Yes. This novel took you a decade to write.
Oh, at least. Yeah.
Why?
Well, part of it was what he brought up. I didn't always get traction with this because I would get feedback from agents saying, you're not a woman and you're writing about a mother and a daughter. But so I would put it away for a while, and 6 months, a year would go by, and then I pull it back out and I go, okay, well, this is pretty good, but what is it? And I really think I was about the fourth draft before I finally figured out what I was trying to do with this thing.
Do you
I-
have an agent?
I did. I don't anymore.
You don't. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk about your experience with that when
Yeah.
we get to it.
I had it for a series of mysteries. So we can talk about that in a minute. But anyway, so at one point I handed this thing to an English teacher friend of mine, and she took a few days, and she came back and she said, did you know you wrote women's fiction? And I said, what's women's fiction? I don't know. I had to Google it. No kidding. And so in Googling it, very first thing that comes up is the Women's Fiction Writers Association. And so I contacted them, and I contacted their scribe, a woman named Barbara Claypole White, who's a brilliant writer. And I said, listen, you don't know me from Adam. I'm a guy, and I wrote this thing, and my friend tells me it's women's fiction, and I would really like some feedback from people who read and write that now that I know where I'm going. And she said, you should join. I said, you remember I told you I'm a guy? She said, yeah, come on. That's right. And I've been a member with them for 9 years. I'm telling you, I told you at the beginning, I am a member of 3 national writers organizations and relatively active in all 3. But those folks in WFWA have been the most supportive and the most cheering me on of any group. And I am about to be elected to as secretary to the board of directors of the Women's Fiction Writers Association, and I know I'm going to. Yeah, I know I'm going to win because I'm running unopposed. So unless a whole bunch of people
That's usually the
abstain,
case.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And not that I'm hot and heavy to be a secretary of any board of directors, but I will do it for these folks because they've been so gracious to me, and if I can pay them back in some way, by all means.
I am the secretary for the Missouri Writers Guild, and I can tell you it's.
How much?
I ran unopposed.
Oh yeah, I'm figuring this thing out. It's like
In fact,
nobody else
I
wants
don't
it.
think there was an election. I think it was. I said, "Well, what's the job exactly?" And they go, "You got it."
Oh, it's yours now. Yeah.
It was a pretty
Yeah,
simple
I think it's
process.
an anointment. I really do. That's
So,
okay. That's cool, man.
You might
I'm happy
also
to-
look at. There's a group called Sisters in Crime.
I like Sister.
Yeah.
I've actually spoken to some other groups, their local chapters, and
Yeah.
they're fun.
Yeah,
They
are.
tend to be a lot of fun. They are a laughing group.
The publisher that I have, they have about 200 authors, and I'm going to say 70% of them probably are women. And I bet you a sizable majority of those gals belong to Sisters in Crime because they have chapters all over the country. It's not just in one place. But what I do notice about their books, they tend to write, a lot of the women write cozies.
Mhm.
And so there's going to be an ex-husband, there's going to be a boyfriend who is probably a police officer, there's going to be a mother, a daughter, a dog. and it just seems to be a trope that runs through those things.
Like a
And-
Hallmark movie.
well, kind of, but because we trade back and forth and we critique and do reviews and whatnot, and that just seems to be sort of the way those things go. And it doesn't make them bad books.
No.
And I'm just thinking that
Absolutely
must be
not.
what
Cozies
that
are fun.
audience wants to read.
Yeah, I said Hallmark, and then it made me think of something. You probably know my work. I was in a
Hallmark movie?
not a Hallmark, was a Lifetime
Lifetime?
movie. Yeah, Hunted by My Ex. Yeah.
I've seen that.
No, I'm dead guy number one.
You're bad guy number one?
No,
Dead
dead
guy.
guy. I'm
Dead
dead guy. I'm the bloody guy underneath the tarp. That's me.
So you had no.
That's my work.
You had no speaking.
I'm dead.
Yeah, you're dead, Jim.
Oh my goodness.
I know. They dragged me. It was a hoot.
So you can do dead, can you?
And I didn't look. I was the right size of the actor who, by the way, would not let them drag his dead body. And he said, I'm not doing that. And they said, can you fit in his clothes? And I could. So they said, move your head, don't look at the camera. You're dead that way. And so I
Yeah, well, when your brains are bashed in.
and they were bashed in.
Yeah. So
You've seen it.
how good do you have to look?
It's a big deal.
There was a shovel
Oh
incident.
my
It all
gosh.
starts
Yes.
somewhere. I
I've
love it.
seen that movie.
Yeah.
I happen to like those.
Hunted
movies.
by My Ex. It's a classic.
So did you have to join Screen Actors Guild? to do
No, I was working. So about a year after retirement, I got cancer in my throat, and it was a big deal. Like it was trying to eat its way to my brain, and I did the full ride chemo and radiation and surgeries, and I'm a healthy guy. I never smoked. I don't dip. Just one of those things,
Just
that?
right?
Those things,
And so so I'm like I couldn't teach. I didn't have a voice. Couldn't do my gigs, and so I don't know what I'm gonna do. My youngest son said, "Dad, just without thinking about it, what would you do if money wasn't the question?" And I said, "I think I'd want to go to film school." Because you need to go to film school. So Albuquerque, New Mexico is a thriving film
Yes.
Right.
industry, and so
Right.
I said, "Well, yeah, you're right." So I signed up for film school, and Melissa was just over the top supportive of that, and I did that for a couple of years, and I was in on a lot of films, and I'm going to tell you something. I learned more about writing, and I became a better writer for having taken editing classes
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it just and writing things as screenplays. It makes you focus on dialogue and pace and scene
Yes.
settings and
Yes.
really being concise. And I believe that my writing skills skyrocketed as I did that and after I did that. And I'm so grateful that I got to do that. And it was fun being on some films. Some of them were kind of big budget and some of them were, $8 budgets, and they were all a hoot. But I'm so glad you know my work as dead guy number one in Lifetime movie.
I'm
Hunted by My Ex.
tickled.
Who knew he was a star?
I mean,
Listen, I'm really upset now because we do not have any books with him, and now I can't have anything signed.
No.
And
you've got your desk that I can't pound on. So I mean,
You can't pound on the desk.
yeah.
Didn't
So
write a book.
tell us
I-
about your journey about publishing. All right, tell us about
So my-
getting your agent, doing your agent,
my
publishing your
nonfiction
book.
Sure. My nonfiction stuff is not agented. It's published by a traditional model, small group called Pinnell Publishing. They were great. They've been great to me. They're very nice people. And they may end up doing this other one, Drop the Pen, and we'll just see about that. That's
Okay.
just something that I'm sort of in the process of deciding.
I'm not going to hold you to it.
Well, we're going to see. I don't know. My crystal ball is still broken, but they have been great. I really wanted to sort of bump up my game with my fiction.
Mhm.
And so, which is another reason why it was a 12-year process. I really wanted to kind of stick it out, and everybody wants a big five, but Black Rose is fairly large, mid-sized publisher, and they are known for their marketing assistance, and I want that. I'm learning so much about marketing, but I really want to have a partner in that, and so that's why I was agented for a couple of years, and it was for a detective series based. It's the most autobiographical thing I've really ever written. It's based on cases I actually worked. The first one is about a serial rape case that I worked in. Just a sinister man, and I worked it for about almost 2 years. He was just a dreadful human being, and so the first novel is called The Shadow Box, and it's about a guy who there's an attempt on his life. It disables him. He has to leave the job he loves, and he sort of grudgingly takes a job as an investigator for the public defender's office. And so he's looking at it again from a different perspective. You always got to have some mechanism for why somebody other than a cop is investigating. And that was my route. And so, but when I was agented and when we went on submission for that, it was during 2019, 2020. Well, what was going on in 2019, 2020? We had Black Lives Matter, Me Too, Defund Police, and COVID was all part of this presentation. And we kept getting really nice, positive feedback. I love the writing. Great. But it's not right for us at this time. And it took me a while to figure that one out. I'm literally putting out there this sort of stereotypical middle-aged white male cop swooping in to save the day. And it was a little flawless now that I think about it at that time. My plan is to revisit that whole thing during my summer break between semesters and dust it off and see how I can make it better. And then probably try again.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's pretty good. It can always get better. We can always get better, right? But that's sort of my plan. But and she and I parted amicably. She said, I don't think I can sell this. And I said, I understand. And we're still friends to this day.
I find when I read other people's stuff very often is that where it falls down is dialogue, because people don't talk the way a lot of people write dialogue. They just don't.
Yep.
And it's like somebody wrote it in English class. And it's
Mhm.
not that it's not that it's badly written. It's just that that's not how people talk.
Right. I agree. Which is why writing it as a screenplay makes you focus on dialogue.
Well, we did that one time. We took one of my books and tried to turn it into a screenplay, and of course it pancaked off the end of the runway. But you get a sense of it's like show not tell.
Pancaked off the end of the runway.
You can use that
phrase.
All right.
I'm going to use it like 9 times today.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Long-term goals.
Long-term goals. I want to get published with that mystery series, and I've written 2 historical novels based in New Mexico from our 8 years that we spent there, and it's for those kids that were in my school, those kids that were coming in from the Pueblos and in and around. There's 19 indigenous tribes around New Mexico, and I joked about those kids being frustrating, but I love those kids, and those stories are for them. That's a long
Okay.
time ago.
And how can our audience get in touch with you?
www.davidlanewilliams.com. And
Say that again slowly.
David Lane, Lane, Williams.com.
Okay.
And I will.
And
I
do
will
we have
respond
any
to you.
books on Amazon as we speak?
The two you mentioned in the intro are still on Amazon.
Which are
Fighting for Her Life. That's the domestic violence book.
Right.
And,
Fighting for
Textbooks-
Her Life, What to Do When Someone You Know is Being Abused,
Mhm.
and Textbooks Not Targets, How to Prevent School Shootings in Your Community. Those are on Amazon.
Yeah. And that second one, the school shooting one, I wrote my master's thesis on preventing school shootings, and it's based on that research.
Okay. All right. And thank you so much, David Williams, for
Are we
being
leaving?
on Author's Edge.
This
We
is
are
so fun. Let's do it one more hour. One more hour, Mark.
Well, tune in again next week for more tips, resources, and your favorite conversations. Our next guest is going to be Jacqueline Protho, and we will be chatting with her about her company, The Audio Flow, where she does audio books. Till then, see you around the inkwell.
Indeed.